Sonic Prime is one of the most character-driven pieces of media to come out of the franchise in quite some time. Not only is Sonic undergoing a character arc for the first time in any Sonic show, but each supporting character is given a decent chunk of depth. Each alternate version represents a different facet of their respective character, facets that are interesting to explore. Today I'm going to be focusing on Tails, and the 3 alternate versions that appear in the first episodes of Prime. The version with the most obvious depth that we're going to explore first is 9 is one of Prime's central characters, and the Tails that gets the most focus throughout the first 8 episodes. In this world where Sonic didn't save him from a life of bullying and abuse, Tails became much more hardened and bitter. He's not a hero in this world, but he's not quite a villain either. 9's actions all stem from a sense of self-preservation. He doesn't do things based on morality, but rather what best benefits him. Like when he steals the shard in order to travel through time, abandoning the resistance in a dystopian New York City. This jarringly deviates from the selfless, sacrificial Tails we've all known for the last 30 years. But while this is a selfish action, it makes sense given the context of 9's life. He spent his whole life in survival mode. Of course he'd primarily act in his best interests, because he's used to doing anything to just stay alive. Through this cynical, jaded version of Tails, we can gather that Sonic is the sole reason for Tails' heroism, which is really interesting. This universe proves that without Sonic, Tails wouldn't even see the point in being a hero, because he believes people are inherently bad. Prime makes the argument that Sonic shaped fundamental aspects of Tails' personality, from his morals to his overall worldview. But 9 presents an interesting question, one that's never really been explored in the franchise. Would Tails have been better off without Sonic? Of course, from what I've said, the answer seems to be an obvious no. Without Sonic, Tails endured so much more abuse and deviated away from heroism for the most part. But on the other side of the coin, without Sonic, 9 became much more independent early on. He learned to stick up for himself and build a stable life because he had no one else to lean on. While the Tails we know had to work hard to overcome his overdependence and even cowardice. Frontiers emphasizes Tails' non-linear path to self-actualization, and how much he struggles to accept his own inconsistencies. 9 may have ended up more bitter, but there is no doubt that he's supremely confident in his identity, and he's proud of the fact that he crafted it himself. Prime crafts a surprisingly multi-layered analysis of Sonic and Tails' friendship. It emphasizes the sheer amount of positive influence Sonic had on Tails' life, but it also plays with the idea of him unintentionally holding Tails back. I don't love everything about the way Prime interprets their relationship. Just call them brothers already. But I'd argue that this is one of the most complex looks at the relationship in the entire franchise. 9 explores a sort of hidden darkness that exists inside of canon Tails. It's the most jarring and intricate examination in Prime about what a world without Sonic would truly look like. While 9 may provide the most multifaceted look into Tails out of all of the alternate universes, there are still 2 more that each bring something unique to the table. I know what you're thinking. How can you analyze Mangy, the feral, non-verbal Tails who bites Sonic and barks at people? Well, I love to overanalyze things, especially Tails, so Mangy's fair game. I've seen multiple theories on what aspect of Tails Mangy's supposed to represent. Because he has much less screen time, his character is kinda left up to interpretation. I think the theory I agree with most is that Mangy represents Tails' suppressed childlike tendencies. He's nonverbal and very much the baby of the group. Though Tails is one of the youngest in the canon universe, I don't think it's a stretch to say that he hasn't exactly had a normal childhood. Besides all the trauma he endured early on, fighting villains and robots isn't really conventional, even in the Sonic universe. I think Mangy's vulnerabilities and dependence are supposed to emphasize a side of Tails we don't often see in the franchise, his childishness. It works well with his canon counterpart as well, as one of Tails' defining characteristics is his maturity despite being so young. Mangy could imply an inner desire to connect with the childhood he never experienced. We have one more Tails left. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, it's time for... Sails was definitely the hardest to psychoanalyze. I mean, his name is Sails. What's to analyze here? I'd argue quite a bit. Compared to 9 and Mangy, Sails is definitely the odd one out. He doesn't seem to share 9's trauma or Mangy's age-regressive tendencies. In fact, he seems almost happier and more go-lucky than the actual Tails. Obviously, we haven't seen Prime's interpretation of the regular Tails, the one we know and love. But going off of past iterations of the character, he and Tails actually have one major difference. Tails in the main series is pretty explicitly coded to have anxiety. Though he's a joyful character, he struggles under pressure and often overthinks. Sails, on the other hand, doesn't seem to share the same anxiety. He's happy and free-spirited. I think Sails is supposed to represent Tails' adventurous side. Even though Mangy suggests an inner desire for childhood, Sails' desire for adventure implies that Tails is content with the life Sonic brought him into. It's a neat subtext that gives even Sails the pirate something to offer in terms of Tails' depth. Sonic Prime deconstructs Tails so thoroughly without even putting much emphasis on it. It utilizes show don't tell to a commendable degree, especially for a kids show. So many facets of Tails are put on display, each one revealing more layers to his canon character. While it isn't perfect, I consider Sonic Prime a breath of fresh air for Tails' character. So many of his portrayals in the modern era simply characterize him as a one-note tech genius, and don't explore anything outside of that. Or they're like forces and butcher him completely. In just 8 episodes, Prime showed us it wasn't afraid to explore these characters deeper, and experiment with them in creative, unique ways. I'm more than excited to see where the series brings them, especially Tails, going forward. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, I have an Instagram now. Follow me at CosmoBunny's Corner, and we can chat and have some fun. Let me know what y'all thought of Prime. I'm super curious to hear your thoughts. I cannot wait for the next episodes to drop. I'm going feral. Have a lovely day, CosmoBunny family. I love you all.